Hey everyone, Jonathan Bailor and Carrie Brown here. We are living the smarter science of slim. Not only are we living the smarter science of slim, but we are having a little photo shoot here apparently.
We are?
Well, we had.
Oh yes, that's right. I thought it was a secret.
Well, no, it wasn't a photo shoot. So I'm wearing one of the new, the first edition Smarter Science of Slim t-shirts. So we created 3 designs. One is a Get Eccentric, another one is a Go Sane, and another one is just a Smarter Science of Slim.
And very fetching they are too.
And folks might not get this. Actually, we got some feedback on this. So if you wanted to grab one of these shirts, you can grab them in the SANE store on the site. And I'm not like printing these shirts. There's a company called Zazzle, and when you click on the link, we just take you to the Zazzle store, and there's like 15. Oh, there's more than that. There's like 90 different types of shirts, and you can get like a hoodie or a sweatshirt or like a fitted t-shirt or a strapless t-shirt for women or a freaking laptop bag. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff you can get. And sometimes people are confused by that because they're like, I don't want this plain white shirt. You can get all kinds of different colors. Point being, I got one that I really like, and wearing it today. I'm wearing my Get Eccentric shirt. Wore it to work today. Got some good feedback on it, and Carrie wanted to take a picture of it. So
yes, so I have the picture, people.
And I think, well, by the time this podcast airs, they can go to your.
Let me just point out, Jonathan is in the t-shirt. I have a picture of Jonathan wearing the t-shirt, and it's awesome. But he wouldn't let me post it on Facebook. So you're the only way you're going to see this all exclusive, Jonathan.
This is like TMZ style.
Yes, you're going to have to go to my blog, and which actually I've made it easier. People are always asking. The biggest search on my blog now is trying to find my blog. So I made it easy. There's 2 ways you can get to it: the Marmalade and Milepost, but also carriebrown.com.
Yep.
So if you go to carriebrown.com, you'll get there. And at some point in the next couple of weeks, there's going to be a exclusive picture of Jonathan modeling his t-shirt.
Well, by the time this podcast airs, it'll be up there.
Yes, it will.
So absolutely check it out. And I wouldn't let Carrie shoot my face. I wouldn't let Carrie shoot my face. It sounded odd. I generally wouldn't let Carrie shoot my face with her camera because it's been an extremely busy and exciting time for us over here.
There's some designer stubble going on.
Yeah, that's something to call it. So it's been lowercase insane. It's never going to be uppercase insane because that's just not possible. But it was
anyway. It's insane. A very fetching shirt.
So
particularly with you in it.
Thank you. So please, if you haven't checked out the Smarter Science, the SANE store, so check it out. We got some cool shirts up there and a cool way to show your sanity or your eccentricity or whatever you choose to show off. But today, Carrie, let's continue our FAQs. Frequently asked questions for those who do not care for acronyms.
Everyone in Britain is going, I wish they wouldn't use that.
Yes, for all of our listeners around the world. So the first question, Carrie, and I'm gonna direct this one at you first, and then of course I'll give my 2 cents. But very common question is, can I use cooking oils and butter and stay sane?
It depends what cooking oils you use. Was that the right answer?
That was the right answer. I was hoping. If you haven't detected...
See, I have been paying attention for the last year.
If you haven't detected, we actually don't in any way, shape, or form script these podcasts. So we have a list, like, for example, I have a list of questions we're going to cover in this podcast, but the dialogue is all impromptu. So when it works out, we're pleased.
I think this brings a whole new meaning to the term unplugged.
Yes. So Carrie, give us some more context on the conditional statement of, well, it depends on what kind of cooking oil.
So we use the royal we, coconut oil and butter for cooking. I generally use butter in baking. Mm-hmm. No, half and half, coconut oil and butter. But if I'm heating oil, I will almost exclusively use coconut oil. Mm-hmm. For cold applications, so for dressings or somewhere it's not going to be heated, virgin olive oil. Mm-hmm. And that's pretty much the only 3 oils that I add.
Yeah, I think there are some more
there's some weird
options.
ones.
Yeah, macadamia, and you could also use like beef tallow and ghee. My personal experience, though, is actually like there is a reason, not only from a simplicity sake, to just stick with coconut oil wherever possible. One, it's simple. We've got enough complexity in our lives. Keep it simple. The other thing is it's also becoming much more widely available. Like you can get extra virgin coconut oil at Costco now, and they sell these big tubs.
An enormous tub.
Yeah, and it's delicious. I started my new healthy addiction. I think I've eaten this for dinner Monday through Thursday consistently for the past 3 weeks. Is I take just I just put some coconut oil in a pan, put some salmon in there. You know, I saute or whatever you can pan, sear, I don't know, and then I have this magic seasoning. But that, oh my, like, whoo, it's good. It's good eating, and there's a reason to keep it simple with the coconut oil, right? Coconut oil has a lot of what's called the medium chain triglycerides, which are a saturated fat, which when used in place of other types of saturated fat, speeds the metabolism, helps the immune system, does all kinds of stuff, which you're not going to find in other oils. So not only is it simple, not only is it delicious, but it's uniquely metabolically beneficial to just keep things simple with the coconut oil. So.
And, completely off topic, kind of off topic, is girls, ditch your moisturizer and put that coconut oil on your face. Because people are always asking me how I have such beautiful skin.
Well, this is the humble hour.
How other people say it. I didn't say it. People are asking me.
I have this friend.
People are always asking me how my skin is like it is, and it's coconut oil.
Yeah, so all goodness. And again, just to be very clear and give the quick disclaimer that you've probably heard already if you've listened to this podcast consistently or read the book, and that's use coconut oil or butter when you need to for cooking purposes. Don't eat tablespoons of butter and coconut oil, right? It's for use when needed, when cooking, but by definition it is not high in water, fiber, or protein. So it's not something we need to go out of our way to eat more of, but if we need to use these to make a delicious dish, these are our best options.
Right.
So can you stay sane while eating these? Oh, absolutely. Technically, are they sane? Well, no, and that's why we don't eat them by themselves, but they're fine when you cook and things like that.
And on olive oil, people may be a little bit confused about why we don't cook with olive oil. Cook, i.e. heat with olive oil, and that's simply a stability thing. Is coconut oil is incredibly stable. In fact, you can keep coconut oil for years and it will be fine. You cannot do that with olive oil, and olive oil becomes increasingly unstable the higher you heat it. So it's losing, the more you heat it, it's losing some of its magical health properties. So that's why we don't
to add a little bit science to the magical health properties. It's a good job you've
got that nice T-shirt
the
on.
Magical health properties. So to elucidate what these magical health properties are, well, no, just in all seriousness, we've all heard about trans fats and how, in fact, they're banned in many contexts. When you heat most oils, the reaction, the chemical reaction, when they're taken to a certain level of heat, essentially, for all intents and purposes, turns them into a trans fat. So here you have this olive oil, which when it's served cool, it can be very healthful for you. When you heat it, it actually turns into something else. It is actually molecularly different and becomes a trans fat. So not a good thing. That's why we don't want to heat it. So
you see, and I think my term "magical" was just perfectly. It got us to the same place as all that geek.
It absolutely did. So. Moving on. So a similar question, which is, are spices, seasonings, and salt sane?
I forgot something on the fat thing.
Rewind, talk about the fat thing.
You're saying in and of themselves they're not sane, but when we use them in cooking, we also have to bear in mind, not get weirded out. You're using a tiny amount. I mean, you know, when you're
and the dish
searing your salmon,
yeah.
right? So the actual amount you're using is tiny. So I just don't want people to get, weirded out about using fat. It's all
Absolutely.
And it being sane or not.
Yeah.
It's a tiny amount in terms of the whole dish.
Yeah, but and at the same time, you will probably read in some blog or magazine or something that is a little bit more opinion oriented. Eat 1 or 2 tablespoons of coconut oil a day. It's good for you. What's good for you would be eating more coconut the whole food, not the processed oil derivative. In fact, one of the most conspicuous propagators of that message is the coconut oil manufacturers themselves. If you read the jar, it's like,
no.
They're like, you should eat
I don't
more of
believe
this.
You. They would never do that.
Really, coconut oil manufacturers, you think we should use more of your product? No. But anyway, okay. So
we love coconut oil.
We love coconut oil for the purposes of cooking. Spices, seasonings, and salt, are they sane? So
they're seasonings.
Exactly.
You use
not applicable.
You used like 1 gram.
Yeah. So
for
this
an entire plate.
Well, and
it's all good.
Just let's pop up a level. Spices, salt, and seasoning are non-caloric, meaning they don't contain calories. They're not something your body uses for energy. Asking if salt is sane is a bit like asking if water is sane. Like, water doesn't have calories. It's not applicable. Is cardboard sane? It's not. It's not applicable. So, spices, seasonings, and salt. Please don't fear them. A lot of what you hear about salt intake is completely not backed by science. It's much like what you hear about fat intake. It is myths and dogma. It is not backed by science. Of course, don't drink salt water, but season your food, make it delicious, enjoy that stuff, and pick your battles, keep things simple.
Well, and if any of the listeners have made any of my soups, they'll know that it's the spices and the herbs that completely transform it from being a kind of dull leek soup or dull cauliflower soup into something really, really tasty. And
to channel Carrie even further, Carrie often makes the excellent point of, you got to read labels, you got to read labels, you got to read labels. And this is an excellent example of that, because I personally find living a sane lifestyle to be much simpler when I focus on seasonings and spices rather than store-bought sauces, because sauces are an insane minefield. Salad dressings, like even like hot sauce, you look at it, you're like, high fructose corn syrup, pasta sauce, high fructose corn syrup, ketchup, all of these sauces, it's very hard to find sane sauces. Let's just put it that way. However, seasonings, go bananas. I mean, make your own sauce by using seasonings. Store-bought sauces, no. Store-bought seasonings, often quite fine.
I spent half an hour at the grocery store a while back looking at pasta sauces, and it was scary. Mm-hmm. There was one brand of all the gazillion brands that had no added sugar.
Yep.
One.
Yeah.
Now I know what it is. It's great, but you have to do your homework.
And you'd be really surprised about how simple this can be. I mean, we're all smart people here. We've all done things much more complicated than some of this food stuff. And for example, vegetable dip, and not even vegetable dip, like you get some seasonings, you mix it with some Greek yogurt, and it's fabulous. Like, you just even eat that by itself. I mean, you just say, okay, Greek yogurt is this relatively benign base. What could I season that with? Do some experiments. You don't need to make a big thing, like just take a little dollop of Greek yogurt, put some seasoning on it, mix it up, taste it. And you'd be surprised what you can discover there.
Actually, you will find where there's brands, for example, ranch dressing in the bottle, don't buy that. But if you get the packet of ranch mix, that is not bad.
No, not at all.
And if you put that into your non-fat Greek yogurt, you got the same thing as in the bottle, but a much, 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 much healthier version. So the dry mixes are mixed into yogurt is the much, much better way to go than buying the one that's ready mixed in a jar.
And much less expensive, which is great.
Expensive.
And for those who may be a bit more sensitive, or if you describe this to someone else who likes to poke holes in things, they may look at one of these packets of seasoning and see like maltodextrin or soy lecithin, or some, which again, you look at it, you're like, okay, that's not optimal. Look at the seasoning. Look at the size of the seasoning packet, right? Like, unless it has crack in it, like the quantity you're consuming, put it this way, no one in this country is obese or diabetic or has heart disease because they've consumed too much of that stuff.
Right.
Right? So is it great? If we could find a seasoning packet that didn't have any of that stuff in it, should we prefer it? Absolutely. But if you can't find one, and from a high level, folks, too, if possible, don't be limited by your grocery store. Because I was about to say, if you can't find one at your grocery store, well, you do the best you can. At the same time, for things like seasonings, those are brilliant to look online for because they don't go bad. You can usually get free shipping. Like, go on Amazon and type in vegetable dip mix. And you've now got 1,000 grocery stores at your disposal.
But when you consider how big or small the packet is, and you're tipping that entire packet into a pound or two of
Exactly.
non-fat Greek yogurt, and then for every meal you're only having a teaspoon, the amount of, you know, the maltodextrin you're eating is so tiny.
Yep.
Don't get lost in the minutia.
And you're doing that instead of
Right.
eating a plate of pasta.
Yeah.
Right? So it's even like, yes, it may not be a 10 on a scale of 1 to 10, but it's a 9.8 instead of a 2. So that's a win. That's a big win.
Don't get lost in the minutia. Don't drive yourself mad.
And one other thing I just mentioned something about using the internet for buying non-perishable foodstuffs. I really wanted to drive this home because it's actually very important, because I think a lot of people don't, when they think food, they don't think internet for reasonable. I mean, you don't necessarily want to buy perishable food on the internet, although that is becoming more common with certain delivery models. But, for example, Carrie talks about xylitol. I started using xylitol. I love it. I can't find it at any grocery store. And I was like, well, screw this. I'm just going to try something else. Well, then I was like, well, that's dumb. And I went on the internet and I typed in xylitol. And it was like, oh, now I have 15 pounds of xylitol coming to me. But my brain didn't say, buy food, look for it on internet first, or the internet is an option. So for non-perishable things, I personally would actually even start, well, once you find something you like, go to the internet. I find Amazon.com to be very useful. And not only that, but buy it in bulk. You'll save yourself a lot of time and money. With
xylitol, anyone who's looked at the price in the store versus buying it in bulk online, huge amount of money. It'll sit in your garage for a year. I mean, if I can get through 55 pounds, just me and the cats, anybody can. And ground almonds. 25-pound box, keep it in your freezer. The delivery's like costs $4, something like that. Nothing. It's all good.
And really, folks, that's when you go to the grocery store, especially if you want to get some more of these SANE options, you might need to go to like a specialty store, traditionally like a Whole Foods or a Trader Joe's or a organic market or something like that. Those stores are not known for high value. You know, they've got cool selection. So people sometimes get this misinformed opinion that going SANE is expensive. Well, it can be if you don't know where to look. So where to look is the internet, and where to look is bulk resellers like a Costco or a Sam's Club. So just keep that in mind.
And I did actually, to help, I did recently do a blog post where it had all the things that may be strange to you, like the xylitol and the guar gum and other things that I use in my recipes, which it'll take you to links so you can at least see the picture. So if you do still want to go to your local store, you at least know what you're looking for and have a better idea of you know, what pitfalls to avoid, and I hope that'll help you to find the ingredients and come away thinking, you know, this isn't weird and it's not going to cost me a fortune.
Absolutely. Well, I think hopefully there are some awesome tips for everyone regarding spices, seasonings, and things like salt. The next question I want us to cover, Carrie, is things like low-carb products, which are like low-carb approximations of insane things, like low-carb bread, that if you look on the nutrition label, it actually has more fiber and protein than it has carbohydrate. Like, it's getting the vast majority of its substance from fiber and protein, but it's bread or something else like that. And what are those? Are they insane or are they sane? Well, to be clear, folks, if a food, if anything, is predominantly water, fiber, and protein, it's sane. The thing you want to watch out for with those food products is just being careful they don't have a bunch of other stuff added to them, because that's what you got to watch out for. I mean, if it's some sort of Franken cupcake that somehow doesn't have anything that you would traditionally find in a cupcake in it, and Carrie didn't make it, then you might want to be careful because it needs to be shelf stable. So there's a bunch of other stuff they added to it, like processed baked goods are kind of a minefield. I'm not saying there's nothing there.
There's
but
99% disaster.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there is some diabetic bread somewhere, which is wonderful for you. I don't know how good it tastes, but the point here is, if you want to keep it simple, make it yourself, make it in bulk, freeze it, because you control the sanity. That said, I'm sure there are sane, low-carb food products out there, which are much better than the insane alternatives.
But I do, and I might get upset here because this makes me really mad. Increasingly, when I go into grocery stores, supermarkets, and I go down the bread and the cookie aisle, there's an increasing range of healthy options, and all the front packets say they're gluten-free, they're fat-free, they're sugar-free, they're this, that, and the other. Don't be sucked in by the advertising on the front of the packet. Make sure you read the actual label of what it contains, because I've been doing this lately because I'm like, ooh, it's gluten-free, ooh, let me look at this. And I turn it over, and it's really no more sane than your Twinkies and all that other stuff down the other end. So just please don't be sucked in by the front. Read the ingredients. That's the way you're really going to be able to determine whether it's sane or not.
Carrie is spot on, and I want to channel the brilliant author Michael Pollan here, where he talks about nutritionism and how our culture has moved away from food to thinking about ingredients. And because what Carrie just said, for example, gluten-free, okay, they took the gluten out and they just put something else in. So it's not about eliminating gluten or eliminating high fructose corn syrup or eliminating these individual things. It's about eliminating the classes of food which aren't food. Like, you don't, if you just eat sane foods, they don't have that stuff in them. And think about this from a food manufacturer's perspective. Right now, the trend is gluten-free. So let's take all of our products and put something other than gluten in them. That's it. Like, that's all we have to do, and then we can ride the gluten-free wave.
But
they're not
flour,
healthier.
The wheat is still there.
Or and they put like
starchy
potato starch, all kinds of other
still
crazy
there.
things.
Yeah.
And they just put something else in because the media hasn't glommed onto that ingredient yet. Our message here is, don't focus on that, like this ingredient versus that ingredient. Again, that's too complicated. Just non-starchy vegetables, whole food fats, nutrient-dense proteins, low sugar fruits. Like, simple, keep it simple. So, love it.
I made muffins this week, and I know that the muffin recipe will be old news by the time this podcast is produced, but I made muffins, and unfortunately everybody ate them, Jonathan, so I couldn't bring you one. But they
muffin top free muffins is what you should have called them.
They are muffin top free, but they're also grain free, gluten free, flour free, sugar free, added fat free, and people are like, so what's in them?
These air muffins.
But I have to say, and I've blind tasted them all over the place, and people just went nuts for them. So
I love it.
If you haven't seen that yet, it will be it's up.
It's up, and it's excellent, and it's all about substitution, folks, because really this is just it just gets me so excited because I continue to be amazed. My most recent thing, in addition to the salmon, is I've really been enjoying, Carrie turned me on to the xylitol, is I take cottage cheese and Greek yogurt and some of this casein-based protein called UMP and some coconut, and I take some xylitol and some cinnamon and some guar gum, which Carrie introduced me to, and I mix this stuff up, and it is so good. Like, it is.
I wish you could see his face. His eyes
are
rolling.
Eat it right
He's
now,
just...
and like this, I just eat it, and I eat it as much of it as I want whenever I'm hungry, and
it's all good.
And it's all good. So you don't need to be hungry. You don't need to feel deprived. It doesn't need to be complicated once you've got the correct information, and that's what we're here to do, is give you that correct information. So on that note, next week we've got more FAQs and more information.
Yay!
Yay! So until then, Jonathan Bailor,
Carrie Brown,
signing off. Have a good week, eat more, exercise less, but do it smarter.